do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Batman rules. A lot of you would agree. Some won't, but hey man, that's all fine. What we can all agree on is that a lot of Batman games were absolutely incredible. Now, I've always been a huge fan from the moment I was introduced to the Caped Crusader. Most people nowadays had their first exposure via the Nolan movie trilogy and the Arkham games on the 7th generation of consoles. And while they were pretty good to downright excellent, to me, the best renditions of the character were the one comic I had, which was the iconic Nightfall issue where Bane broke the Bat's back, the 1989 Keaton movie, and the superb animated series in the early 90s. And with the recent Flash movie having the Keaton Bat, I was compelled to rewatch the classic movie again, mostly to wash away the garbage juice the Flash movie left on my retina. And I also had a reason to play the accompanying NES game after roughly 25 years. While the Arkham games were superb, and yes, even the unfairly critiqued Arkham Origins game, because of these, the original NES classic is wildly overlooked by today's generation. Made by the critically underrated Sunsoft, the first Batman game is not really an underrated gem, but mostly an overlooked classic. In this time period, most licensed games were bafflingly and unnecessarily hard.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Can I continue? Batman, however, struck the perfect line between challenge and enjoyment. Now I know you're wondering, but Van Hellington, aren't these just your vintage pink-blue nostalgia glasses talking? Well, let's find out. The main menu looked terrific, and the idle cutscene immediately immersed you. Back then, it seems like you were rewarded for doing nothing, and with cutscenes like this, it was greatly appreciated. The opening cinematic looked dope as well, considering the hardware and time it came out, but once the game started, you knew you were going to have to strap yourself in for a great and challenging ride. And not because of the graphics, which I will get to in a second. No, this time we're doing it a little different.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
You see, one of the multiple reasons this game is so beloved by those that played it is the absolutely stellar soundtrack. For this game specifically, Naoki Kadaka and Nobuyuki Hara made it one of their trademarks to frickin' nail the score of their games. Batman, Fester's Quest, Batman Return of the Joker, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, Batman for the Game Boy. Oh, that ending theme. Gremlins 2 and a bunch of others. Their bass-laden soundtrack is on another level compared to most of the other NES games. Every single tune is straight fire. And you don't need to look far on YouTube to find the most metal covers ever for their games. I highly recommend you do too. I've been listening to these songs for over 2 decades. And I'll leave a link to my favorite in the description. I'll also leave a link explaining how Sunsoft made the music, which I found very interesting while doing some research. So anyway, the music is incredible and will get you hyped up for sure. The next thing you'll notice are the graphics. The colors are gorgeous and the sprites are detailed. Yes, Batman is purple, and that never bothered me for a second. Now, it makes sense because the graphics are quite dark themselves, as the material requires it obviously. I mean, if it was an all-black sprite, we'd only have a yellow symbol to track him. But hey, the color suits him, and purple is my jam.
So here's to ya.
Whoa! The gameplay is rewarding and challenging. All the weapons are available from the get-go. You got your batarangs, which are multi-hitting affairs where if in the right position, wreaks havoc on enemies and bosses and only cost 1 ammo. You have a rocket to take out foes at a long distance, but costs 2 and is relatively slow, so you're more likely to miss, but when done right, takes out the foe that might damage you on small platforms. There's also a free spread projectile that costs free ammo, and if your aiming isn't up to par, this might be the way to go. Personally, I never felt the need to use the last one all that often, but ammo is always around the corner, so do as you will. Now, if you are conservative with your ammo and want to take on a more personal approach, you can always lay the smackdown. It has the highest damage output, but you need to get real close to do it. All weapons are viable choices and all feel great to use. What also feels great to use is the like and subscribe button. It helps grow this channel, validate my existence, and makes me work harder to produce content for the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell, so I didn't make this for nothing. Although I do enjoy making it. Anywho, one thing that I truly loved, to be fair, I love almost everything in this game, but one thing that stands out in comparison to most games on the system was the way they masterfully mixed movement with level design. You see, you got this sick wall jumping mechanic. Not only does it feel great to do, but at times you can have little shortcuts, making it feel very Batman-esque to just circumvent encounters for a stealthy approach. I know there isn't any stealth in the game, but when I was a little kid, it sure felt like it. The levels themselves were excellent. They looked gorgeous, with many moving parts that made the world feel very dynamic and alive. All offered a challenging experience from beginning to end, with very little bullshit that plagued many games of that generation. The more you played it, the more familiar you became with the mechanics and the timing, and the better you became. Especially the last level is an area where practice does make perfect. And after getting through and finishing the game, I just needed to make this specific jump once, for all time's sake, because I had zero problems with this as a youngling. So yeah, I save scummed this just to get it right. Hey, I earned my stripes back in the day. Turtles 1 water level, no damage. Just saying.
I don't believe you.
Anyway, I said very little bullshit earlier, because besides not remembering the juiced up gremlins in the movie, they were also annoying as hell. Sometimes you kill them easily, no problem, but other times you just can't get the timing right, and you end up losing most of your health during a single encounter. These guys. But fear not of thine lack of hearts. Because Van Hellington tip, if you see these enemies on the ceiling, fight the urge to kill them. Instead, wait from a small distance and Batman the little bastards it spawns. Because they drop everything to get you up to full health in no time and restock your ammo. Sometimes it feels like they're cheaping out on the HP, but it will come to those that wait. Speaking of enemies, there's a nice variety. You got your basic henchmen, gunners, flamethrowers, these little car locomotive things as I call them, the aforementioned man-bat gremlin dudes, jetpack dudes, big robots, moving mines, and of course, the bosses. Now, none of these, apart from of course the Joker, are in the movie, but they did what they could. The bosses look cool though, and provide a decent challenge if you don't know the tactics, which you'll figure out eventually. It's funny that in an age where internet didn't exist, everybody I knew that played it still knew the meta when it came to defeating these. And we didn't have Nintendo Power to rely on either. Crazy. Word of mouth was a powerful thing back then. Now I can say with pride that way back then I finished this game multiple times in a row, back to back, because, well, these games weren't that long back then, and they didn't need to be. The last boss was especially brutal, but not very difficult if you know what to do. I died a lot trying to refigure it out again, and despite breezing through the level after so many tries, it helps that there's one of those ceiling health dispensers to make sure you're all prepped for the battle. The ending to the movie is a little different compared to the one in the game, but whatever. It looked awesome.
That's gotta hurt! It's gotta hurt! Hurt! Because...
So after all this nostalgia, does it hold up? Dude, yes. It still plays incredibly well and is an absolute joy to complete. If you want a challenging yet rewarding 8-bit experience, look ye no further. It's hard to come by these days, but if you can find a way to play this,
somehow, some way,
I strongly advise you do. I do have a little nitpick, and most of you will lambaste me if I don't mention this. Yes, Batman is a little small. The Joker towers over him, and most enemies are larger than him. But just ignore that. The game is way too good to let that bother you. While the overall consensus is that Arkham City is the best Batman game of all time, it's the third best out of the 4 Arkham games in my opinion. But that's beside the point. To me, this is my personal all-time favorite Batman game. Now there's where nostalgia kicks in for sure, but apart from remembering playing it during a better time in my life, mechanically, visually and audibly, it is still a banger that deserves your attention. Is it the best licensed game of all time? It might very well be, depending on who you ask. Is it the best Batman game of all time? Debatable as well. Is it one of the best games overall of all time? Indubitably. It's the perfect marriage of graphics, gameplay, sound and challenge that I cannot praise enough. Speaking of soundtracks, if you want to listen to the soundtrack, there's a playlist in my channel by the time you're watching this, so be sure to give it a listen. You won't be disappointed. Alright, that's it from me. I hope you liked this shorter video. Let me know if you want to see more of these in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell thingy. And remember, have yourself not just a great day, but a nostalgic great day.